Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's Admiration. This week we have looked at a US ad for Jersey Mike's, a kind of quick serve restaurant brand, I'll call it for now, for anyone unfamiliar with it. And the ad's called Wakey Wakey and features Danny DeVito. Shall we jump straight in, Isa?
Yeah, let's get it up.
Bacon. Good morning, everybody. Nothing like the Jersey Mike's morning prep. The sizzling bacon, the slicing of the tomatoes, the popping of the fresh lettuce.
Danny, what are you doing up there?
I've been living up here for months.
Got a package from Mr. DeVito?
Ooh, my bacon sniffing horn. Oh, smell that bacon. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, now we're talking. Freshly prepped every morning. It's a Jersey Mike's thing, a sub above.
Great. Shall we jump straight into the result?
So there we have it, as usual, the total diagnosis of the ad, looking at the sales impact score, the brand impact score, and all the individual measures contributing to that. So you can see, I mean, just looking at the percentile scores, how successful this ad was in the top 5, well, in the top 3 really percent of all US ads that we've tested when it comes to sales impact, and within the top 10% of all ads in the US that we've tested on brand impact.
So an ability to drive short and long. And I guess really looking at it, I mean, we can see that people love it, but one of the things we haven't perhaps talked about before, we're talking about what an ad needs to do. So it needs to reach people, be noticed, remembered, connect to the brand. And we can see in that reach bucket, which is the top 3 measures, it has huge potential. Resonate, so make people feel something. When they feel something good, it rubs off on the brand, and it also helps memorability. And then response in terms of making them take some action. And of course, for some ads, that can be a long-term thing. So not every ad has to do really well on those response metrics that we've got on the left-hand side, but this one's a really great example where it has an ability to create a response both in the immediate and in the longer term, which is wonderful to see. Amazing. So shall we jump a little bit more into what it is that's driving that kind of reach and resonance? How do people like emotionally respond to the ad? How does the journey work?
Yeah, I think from an overall emotion perspective, it was particularly strong. You can see how significantly over the norm the ad is, and it's because it drives multiple different positive emotions really successfully and above the ad, well, what we're used to seeing for an average ad in the US. And then obviously it delivers multiple peaks of those emotions as well. So maybe it's easier to showcase if we look at the second by second emotional trace for the ads. You can see just what the emotions are driving those peaks, and at which points in the ad those peaks are. So we'll focus on love, like, and laughter in this case, which is the ones we typically are used to focusing on anyway. If you go down here, huge peaks of love in the beginning and at the end, and then throughout a number of peaks of laughter. And if we just play the ad to see where those quickly again. See Dan DeVito wakes up, he opens the window, he's actually living in a Jersey Mike's, and then the prep of, well, their morning prep, which he narrates, generates huge amounts of love. His whole interaction and like receiving the bacon sniffing horn makes people really laugh. And then again, when we see the bacon again, the fresh produce and the fully prepped sub, people really, really enjoy that as well, just showcasing the quality of the food at Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to see, to the point that you were making, that kind of journey where often ads focus on one emotion and you might see lots of peaks of love as you go along. And in this case, I guess there's a couple of things that are really interesting. So the laughter in general being driven by Danny DeVito, which is kind of a creative element. But the love coming very much from the product, the freshness of the product and how it's being, how the story's coming around that and how delicious it looks. So that's great that the love comes from that. I personally really like the bopping the lettuce and noticed there was a bit of a blip in the reaction there as well, because there's even when they were focusing on the product there was a little bit of humor involved, wasn't there, in how they were preparing that fresh ingredient.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the narration from Danny DeVito that makes it kind of like relatable and fun. The really soothing music in the background. It almost makes it very dreamy and idyllic, but the product ultimately still looks great. Like, I don't like tomatoes, and those tomatoes looked great to me. So
I was vegetarian once upon a time until I smelt bacon cooking, so that particularly resonated with me. The fact that he was getting his bacon horn so that he could smell that even more deliciously. Okay,
yeah.
so that's really great. We've talked a little bit about Danny DeVito driving the humour, and I know that you had a look at this and kindly shared with me before we were talking here, but it seems also that he's working not just to drive the humour, but he's also working really well as a brand asset, which you've seen us look at in previous admiration ads that we've looked at, where it's one of the key things that people that are helping people to realise what brand it's for. Yes, there's other things like the logo and the uniform, but Danny DeVito has been used a lot by the brand and works as a brand cue. He's clearly driving the humour. What role does he play around like overall likability of the ad?
Yeah, I mean, people mention him quite a lot when it comes to the likes. If we just go to the overall responses around what people loved about the ad, I think people just love him as a character. They find him hilarious. They think he works well for the brand because they obviously they know the connection of him being from New Jersey and the Jersey Mike, well, the Jersey Mike's brand, basing it on kind of like New Jersey subs. So you can expand here on the content delivery element. I mean, you can see straight away characters is a big
Yes.
part of the content delivery. And if we go into the characters, I like that Danny DeVito was in it. He was living at Jersey Mike's. I like that the ingredients look so fresh and the workers were wearing gloves and looked very clean. Danny DeVito, one of my favorite actors, was in the commercial. A number of comments around him. But I think the interesting thing is that he still didn't detract from that like how Jersey Mike's were conveying how fresh their ingredients were. And it's quite rare that when I guess mentions on kind of like flavors and ingredients being conveyed in the ad that we get freshness straight away as like a massive part of what's making those likes up. And even in the first comment that we read, people like Danny DeVito, but they still loved the fact that the product was displayed in a really appealing way. So if we go into
That's super important. You can see the other one talking as well about Danny DeVito, but also talking about the bacon and the bacon horn. So the whole storyline, yes, it's enhanced by Danny DeVito being there and his humor and everything else that he's famous for. But it's not detracting from the message, like you were saying, where actually people are happily bringing that together, that the storyline is all about the delicious, fresh ingredients, and Danny DeVito is the vehicle that helps deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so many mentions of the shots that they were short in the ad, and there was a lot more focus on the narrative overall, but people really picked up on the shots of the bacon sizzling, the fresh tomatoes, and you can see all of that in the verbatims around freshness.
And is that then, what's the main message that comes through? Is it freshness or is it something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. It's first and foremost about freshness, but then people also tie that into quality and how great the product tastes. So if we look at the unaided message recall, you'll see that the biggest word we see in our word cloud is fresh. A bunch of bacon, like food, smell, the ingredients, which is all related to the freshness. But if we click onto that and see what people were saying, the fresh ingredients they use to make tasty food. So again, relating that freshness to the taste of the sandwiches. Jersey Mike's has the best and fresh meat and produce. Then they prepare the bacon and other condiments fresh every morning. It's just all very positive associations to the product, and that comes across very well as the key message that the ad's trying to convey.
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? It's very single-minded, you know, when they're focusing really the whole storylines around the deliciousness of those fresh ingredients. But I think what I find really refreshing versus lots of other advertising that we've seen is that I guess in some advertising, I guess the brands either don't know that people automatically connect freshness with other messaging that really, really matters, or they just try and put so much in the ad. So they'd talk about the fresh ingredients, they'd show that, but then they would try and talk about taste, they'd try and talk about quality superiority. Whereas what we've seen here is there's the confidence there to be really single-minded and know that by communicating fresh, it automatically associates them with key category entry points like quality and like taste, which obviously really matters for a food brand or a restaurant brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, I think we've rushed through a bit of a quick one today, but do we want to just jump back to the slides for a bit of a sum up?
Yeah, I think it's obviously important to contextualize the fact that this is not the first time Jersey Mike's has used Danny DeVito in their advertising. They actually started using him back in 2022 after a very long period of not wanting to use a celeb at all. But it just proves that pairing with the right agency and being very clear on the key message that you want to convey, which was around the freshness of ingredients and the quality of the product, you can actually play around with different elements, like adding a celebrity to bring a different tone to your advertising. Danny DeVito obviously comes in and makes the humor in it really credible.
Yeah, and it's nice because they've used his humor still to deliver what they need to deliver, which is, you know, still heroing their brand, their product, the freshness of it, which is wonderful. It actually made me think, and this will show my age, but a very long-standing campaign in the UK with, again, a carefully chosen celebrity from the time. So Gary Lineker worked with Walker's Crisps, or Lay's Crisps, as they're known in most of the rest of the world. And Gary Lineker was a famous footballer that they used year after year after year. So he immediately said Walker's, but he was famous for being a nice guy. So they used what he was famous for to make it even more shocking that their crisps were so irresistible that he couldn't help but drag them. So just another really nice example like you've got here. It's like they're using Danny DeVito for what he's famous for, which is humor. But then they're using a storyline that uses his humor and uses what he's famous for, but focuses the whole story around the messaging, the brand, and making sure that people go away being really clear about the freshness and hence the delicious taste and superiority effectively of the product, which is quite a wonderful use of a celebrity and not what we always see.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for this week, and we'll be back next week with another one. Thanks, Isa.
Thank you.